Hey everybody, it's Femtrooper, and today we're going to be talking about games that made me, yes me, cry. So I did a collab last year on the same topic, but it was with a bunch of YouTubers, so I only got to share one game. This time, I get to talk about more games. So I have picked 5 games today that have made me tear up or cry. Crying and sobbing, no. I typically don't do that. That's pretty tough for me. However, there have been moments that were quite emotional, and that's why I want to discuss these today with you guys. Before we get into the video, please make sure to click like, subscribe, and tell me which games have made you cry, or at least tear up. We're going to start the video out with one that is a crying moment for me because I was just so happy to see it end, like in a good way. You know, when something is so great, you're like crying from like tears of joy. Well, that game is Chrono Trigger. Now, this game is so perfect to me, and I know a lot of people love Chrono Trigger and blah blah blah, and it's always on every list, but it is for a reason. It's a really, really good game. I feel like I am due for a replay of this because it has been a long time, but I do remember absolutely loving this game and the characters and the story being a very strong point. And when I saw the characters at the end and everything was good and it was kind of like a really nice ending, I remember tearing up because I had spent so much time on this game. This was at a point where I wasn't beating games that often, so for me to actually like beat a game like this, it was a big deal. And I just felt so great beating it. And to me, this is like kind of like the perfect anime. And when you get to the end and everything is good, you kind of want to stand up and clap or cheer. Well, that's what this is. So at the very end of the game, there was like an animated cutscene that they put in the DS version. And I kind of just felt like, wow. And then the end credits started and I was just like tears of joy. Like I remember tearing up like, oh my God, it's over. And I'm done with these characters and this story, and they went on such an adventure. Like, it was crazy. So really like this game for that reason. It's one of those games where at the end you're just so happy, it's so satisfying, you gotta at least like clap or something. Like, it's just one of those. Next, we have a game that is kind of an obvious one in terms of crying, but it really got me at the end. I was legitimately sad. And that is Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. And this is one of those games that, yes, I would assume that, 95% of the people playing this have played Final Fantasy VII, so you understand the character of Zack Fair to a certain degree, like you know who he is and what happens to him. But then when you're playing this, you actually feel and truly get it. Because when you're playing Final Fantasy VII, it's a character that is mentioned and you don't really find out that much about him. But in this game, it's like, you fully understand and get to meet and get to, fall in love with Zack Fair. He's a really great character. I really, really liked him. And I really enjoyed this game for many reasons. It's fun and kind of old school and has like that PS2 kind of vibe to it. It feels like you're playing like Final Fantasy X. It's really fun, and I love that about this game. But oh my gosh, when you're playing it what happens, and I'm not gonna spoil stuff, but you know what happens, and so it makes it worse because the whole game you get to know the character of Zack Fair. So kind of a bittersweet end because, I'm always happy to see a game end, but in this case, it's kind of like, oh, that's a real downer. So I am really enjoying the new remake versions of the game because Zack Fair is in that as a playable character, and it's kind of cool. So that's kind of neat. And yeah, this is definitely one of those where you're like, oh, now I know who Zack Fair is. And when you see the end of this game and what happens to him, it is very tragic and upsetting. And it definitely was sad. And they played this song and I was like, geez. And it got me. This next one is incredibly sad. It has a very sad moment in it. I won't say what it is, but that game is Walking Dead Season 1, the Telltale game. Oh my gosh, this is really, really great. I still need to finish this series. I know it's terrible. I really, really got to get on that because I've played Season 1 and 2 and loved them. So I need to just, play Season 3 and 4 and finish them because they are so well done. I remember liking this more than the actual show. And the show is good. I mean, kind of overstayed its welcome, but this is so good. This is really a great game, and the characters are excellent, and I just really, really love the dynamic of the characters in this game. You play the game as a character named Lee, and then obviously you kind of become like a father figure to this other character who's a little kid named Clementine. And it is really, really intense and heartbreaking and emotional. And I have to say that the end of this game kind of broke me, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's really sad. And I will say that anytime there are, I guess, issues with like kids and parents, I tend to get really upset, and that gets me. So if you're like, how do we make Femtrooper sad? It's like showing a child being taken away from their parents usually gets me a lot. That's why the kid, Charlie Chaplin, the kid, brutal. I can't watch that. That is so sad. And it actually is not because I'm a parent. This has always been a thing for me. I don't know why, but like a parent dying or something like that in a movie, it really, really gets me and makes me upset. And so, yeah, there are some issues. I won't say exactly what happens, but yeah, this is very sad, and great game though. Like, if you want a great story, definitely check this out and this series. Speaking of things with parents and kids, the next one is The Last of Us. And I'm just going to say it right here that the opening scene, it's basically like the first, I don't know, half an hour of the game, is brutal. It's really, really sad. It is not a parent dying, but it is something to do with that. And it is very, very sad. It is brutal watching it. It's very emotional. They definitely knew what they were doing in terms of like making you upset and cry. It is very sad. The whole game has, you know, there's definitely emotional moments in this game. It's a really cool game for sure. But the opening scene with Joel and his daughter, I guess I don't know if it's the opening scene, but it's within the first like half an hour of the game. So it happens right away. There's something really sad happens, and whoa, very, very sad. So this one got me for sure. I was, you know, you can't play it and be stoic, I guess. Like, I was definitely tearing up. It is very brutal, and yeah, this game definitely got me. I don't think any other part in the game made me upset or cry, but that opening scene, I know everybody who's played this knows exactly what I'm talking about, and is definitely really, really brutal. It is so sad, and yeah, it's definitely one of the saddest things I've seen in a video game. A lot of times there's sad things, but man, that one got me. Okay, the last game that I'm going to talk about today is one that is notorious for basically having an entire chapter of sadness. And yeah, it did get me. It's not my favorite, but it got me. And that is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And if you've played it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There is a very specific chapter in this game that it's kind of in between chapters, and it's just like, they're just piling on the sadness. They are just loading you with sad stuff. There's definitely a few moments in this game. Like, it's not just this one chapter. Like, I remember the ending was kind of sad, and then there was another moment, but there is, I think it's chapter 5 and 6, kind of in that area. There are a lot of things going on, and it's very emotional, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I can tell you that characters are shown stuff, and it's like really sad. And I remember thinking, oh my god, like, and again, there is some stuff with children, in terms of like children with their parents, and it was really heartbreaking, and it got to me, and I definitely teared up, and I thought, wow. But then I was also tearing up at the end too, because there were some really sad moments there. Like, the game is kind of sad throughout. I mean, it definitely has a sad vibe. I mean, these characters know they only live for 10 years, and then that's it. So it's kind of like, you know, there's going to be sadness in this game, but wow, this one has some really sad moments. Like, I had sad moments in the other two for sure, and especially number 2, but for other reasons. But this one, legitimately, they were like, we're gonna throw in some actually like really emotional, heartbreaking stuff here. That's like, you're going to feel like melancholy after this. Like, it's really sad. So yeah, if you want to feel awful for the rest of the day, play this game, and then you will definitely, you're definitely gonna tear up. Like, it's very, upsetting. I will say that. There's some upsetting stuff in this game, and yeah, it's a really great game. I highly recommend it. But yeah, there are some very serious moments in this game. So those are my 5 games that made me tear up, at least cry. And like I said, not every game has to be sad to make me cry. There are a few other games that, like, at the end, I was kind of like, yes, like I was so happy to see the characters win or whatever, or just happy to see the conclusion that I teared up, like, oh, I've been on this amazing journey. And then there are other games that legitimately have sad moments, like a character dies or whatever. It's just, I love video games for that, because they can actually be super emotional. There are movies and books that get you, but hey, video games can absolutely make you upset, cry, be mad, and feel a lot of emotions. You feel pain. Well, I mean, you feel pain when you play this game over here. That I know for sure. So I want to know, guys, what video games have made you tear up or cry, sob, bawl? I mean, hey, if you are sobbing in a video game, please put it in the comments. I'm always interested, actually, in what really hits people emotionally, because then I want to play it. Because sometimes I find myself to be kind of stoic and cold and be like, you know, I don't feel anything. And then I play a certain video game that will make people laugh, like, you know, I cry in Dragon Quest 11 or whatever. So, and people are like, seriously? That? It's like, yes, there are some very emotional parts in that game. And they got to me. So I really like that game, obviously. So let me know in the comments below what video games made you cry or whatever, tear up. And of course, I'll see you guys in my next video.